Hey everybody, this week's Torah portion is Parsha Mishpatim, and in this week's Torah portion we find many mitzvos, which makes sense because we just received the Torah in last week's Torah portion. So now that we got the Big Ten, which is a microcosm of the entire Torah, we are now given a massive amount of mitzvos. Now if you were writing the Torah, you'd probably want to start off this week's Parsha, the beginning of this big clump of mitzvos, with something very fundamental, like kosher, or more rules of Shabbos, or something very big. But what we find is a body of law known as the Eved Ivri, the Jewish servant, somebody who is so poor that he has to sell himself into slavery, or a form of slavery. And that's how God decided to start off this week's Torah portion, or right after the giving of the Torah, with laws of an indentured servant, somebody who is a poor person who sells himself into slavery. Now it's peculiar because these laws actually were in place for a very short amount of time. In order for these laws to be in place, we have to have a temple and have everybody living under apportioned land, meaning all 12 tribes have to be exactly on the land that is designated for each tribe. That only happened for a couple hundred years. That ceased to exist about 100 years before the first temple was destroyed and hasn't been in place since then, which means these laws were a very small window when we actually kept these laws. Why start the beginning of this parsha, which is really the beginning of our learning of the many mitzvos, with a law which is very limited in time of when it can be kept, and really not as relevant as many or fundamental as many other things that God could have chosen? And to explain this, our rabbis say a very important principle, and that is as follows. What God wanted to do was show us how to measure our success in the Torah. Meaning, now that we got the 10 Commandments, a microcosm of the whole Torah, God says, now let me show you how to measure your success in it. It's not how you treat me with Shabbos. It's not how you treat your diet and yourself with kosher. It's how you treat those who are less fortunate than you. So the first thing I'm going to give you right after giving the Torah, the big clump of mitzvahs, the first thing I want you to focus on is how to treat a Jew who is so poor that he has to sell himself as a worker into your home. How you treat them, how you treat that person, those who are downtrodden. That's your measure for success in the rest of the Torah. If you can get these laws down, then you know that you're doing a great job. And that's really the message of the beginning of this week's Parsha, that really the way we have to measure ourselves is by how we treat those who are less fortunate than us. On behalf of Makarvi, Shabbat Shalom.